I went down the other side with my little point and shoot and took some snapshots, which you have just seen. And after viewing them in the computer, I thought, my goodness, some of those places don't look too good. And I thought, how could this be? Because at first I thought, the side looks quite acceptable here. At least I thought it did. When you view it from a normal viewing distance, yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Now, I don't know what happened here. I've obviously bumped the side on something. Maybe when it was wet, or maybe not. I do know that very soon I'm going to have to be making a cradle, that we can put this thing in to protect the hull. I will have to touch that up. I just can't leave that. That's just too obvious. Even though it's probably going to be on the side that is going to be on the far side of the case, and we won't see it anyway. Now that scuff that we had on the side of the hull is on the other side, but I've noticed that is a real problem with flat paint. Once you've scuffed it, there's almost nothing you can do except paint over it. Anyway, my plan today was to do the hull red. And I don't know, I'm not really feeling like it. It's almost noon here today, and in fact in about 5 minutes it'll be noon. I'm just trying to make up my mind here. Do I want to get at it or don't I? I'm kind of thinking, we were talking about Windex versus airbrushes, and maybe I'll talk about that today, and we'll do the hull red tomorrow. Now, I don't want to be leaving this masking tape on any longer than I have to. I think the longer you leave it on, the greater the chance is that when you remove it, it's going to take the paint off with it. Now, the only encouraging thing is that this Stynylrez primer, it sticks so good to the plastic and to photo etch as well, that I don't think I'm going to be removing it. But that sure would be too bad, wouldn't it? So why am I laughing? Now, one of the things that I am told is hard on the airbrush is the ammonia that is in Windex. Now, I do think I have seen Windex that has on it contains no ammonia. This one doesn't have the word ammonia anywhere that I could see. When you read through in the back there, it's very hard to read, and it talks about the ingredients. It talks about cleaning agents. Well, that could be anything. It's like they don't want to let you know. But if you go on the internet, you can actually find something about Windex containing ammonia. And now if I Google, and I just did, how much ammonia is in Windex, this is what comes up, among other things. This is what Wikipedia has to say. So in 1989, and that's what, 31 years ago, it was 5% ammonia. Then the product was reformulated in 2006 and then again in 2009. Now that doesn't really tell you what it is right now. You kind of wonder, what are these big companies hiding? Is ammonia really that bad? Well, let's try and find a source that maybe we can rely on. Is ammonia harmful? Well, I think it probably is if it's pure. But, I'll just stop rambling here and let's check it out. Now, what makes me think that ammonia might be rather harmful to you is that probably about 50 or more years ago, some people I knew wanted to clean the scum mark off the side of their fiberglass boat. And they had a jar of ammonia. Now, as far as I know, it was pure ammonia. It wasn't a product that contained ammonia. It was actually pure ammonia. Now, back then you used to be able to buy a lot of stuff that probably you can't buy now. I don't know. However, the idea was you had to wear rubber gloves while you were doing it. And yes, 50 years ago we did have rubber gloves. And we did have fiberglass boats. Yeah, I'm not that old. This is from the Department of Health in the state of New York, and I'm going to accept it as probably being reliable. Okay, a couple of things I noticed. Ammonia has alkaline properties and is corrosive. Okay, doesn't say what concentration here. However, if we do peruse through this a little bit, it starts talking about household ammonia cleaning solutions and then industrial solutions. Now, it doesn't say that the household ones are not corrosive, but it does say that the industrial ones at 25% or higher are corrosive. Once again, it's a little vague here. You know what? Let's just check out the Windex that I've got on hand. Just see what does it do on brass and chrome that I've got right here on my workbench. Now, yesterday I was talking about the fact that I had some brass, and I thought I'd explain why I have some brass. This is what's known as a pen kit. Okay, now I wasn't thinking about this piece of brass in particular, although we're probably going to end up using that. I was actually thinking about this piece of brass right here. Okay, so why do I have this? Now, in a pen kit, there's a brass tube. And what you want to do is you're going to take your pen mill. I call this a pen mill. You might call it something different where you live, and you're probably just as right as I am. Anyway, you take your pen mill and you trim down the edge of the brass tube after you've got the wood turned around it. And I'm not going to go into how you do this. Most of you, I think, already know. A lot of you have probably done this. Anyway, this particular kit, I'll show you the pen. Okay, now this one is, I believe it's called the Emperor. It's quite an ornate pen. However, the brass tube that goes over the cap end is quite large, and I could not find anywhere where you could buy a pen mill shaft the exact right size. You know, the one that comes with this, that goes with this very, very common Sierra kit. There's several variations of this particular kit, and they're very popular, known all over the world. Anyway, the brass tube that comes with it is much smaller, as you can see. And like I say, I couldn't find a shaft that would fit that for any amount of money. So I thought, well, you know what? I can turn my own, which I did. And I made it out of that piece of brass that I showed you earlier. So that's why I had brass. Now this piece right here is what I was thinking about yesterday when I was thinking we got a piece of brass that we can test our Windex on. But you know what? We've also got the brass tube, and that's a lot easier to drop down into a test tube. And the idea is I'm going to, drop it down so that the Windex only goes part way up it, and then we can see if there's any sort of oxidation or discoloration goes on over a period of time. Now we've also got some other little parts. Just hang on a second here. Now, if you can think back to about a year and a half ago when we were starting to use the airbrush, I bought a new nozzle. I believe that this part that I'm touching right now is brass. According to the owner of Maple Airbrush, where I bought this, the tip is made of titanium. I can't test to find out if it really is, but I'm just going to, accept the fact that probably they know what they're talking about. And then we got this little piece here, which is probably brass. I do believe it's brass because on the one I'm using now, I can sort of see on the tip of it that it's worn down a little bit, and I can see that it is brass. So it's probably chrome-plated or nickel-plated brass. So we can actually use these to see if there's going to be any, bad effect of the Windex on these two pieces, as well as this piece right here, or this one. Well, and what I'm going to do is to ensure that the Windex is going to touch the brass itself, and not that possibly this has been coated with a type of shellac or something. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take the wire brush to this, and I'm going to make it completely bare, so we don't need to worry about that. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble here again. Let's get on with this. Now I want to do this in a rather controlled way, so that later on I won't think to myself, well, I wonder if I contaminated something by maybe touching this brass tube with my greasy fingers after I had gone to all the work of burnishing off the any coating that might have been on there with a rotary wire brush. And I did a really good job, trust me. Okay, so we got that. That's bare. I got a brand new test tube here. Oh, by the way, I made the mistake of buying plastic test tubes because they were so cheap, but I'm finding that some chemicals that I use, or some substances that I use, they dissolve the plastic. So I should have bought the glass ones. However, I'm not a scientist. Now, as for our Windex, now here's the plan. I want to try and get the Windex down inside the bottom without it running along the sides. So I'm hoping that I can get my pipette to go right down near the bottom and fill the test tube probably to within about, let's see, get that off of there. Can't talk and work at the same time. Okay, now I don't want it to touch the sides here if I can help it. Okay, that should actually be good. Now the reason I don't want it touching the sides is because when I drop the brass, whoops, I touched it. Well, I touched this end. I'll put the other end down. Where's the tweezers here? I mean, does this have to be so exacting? No, it doesn't. Okay. So my next hope is that when I drop this down in there, it is not going to splash back up all over itself. I don't think it did. Okay, now we'll just leave that in there till tomorrow. Now these pieces here, I don't need to put them in there. I can just use this little empty Tamiya paint jar. Okay, everything's covered. Alright, now the plan is we'll leave this for 24 hours, and then I'll see if I can't some way pull that out, and we'll just check and see if there's going to be any oxidation on the bottom half of it or not. Right now there's obviously nothing. Now the bubbles are going part way up the brass tube there. Okay. Alright, let's just leave it, see what happens. I don't think our Windex is going to dissolve that plastic. It seems to me in fact, I know for a fact I've used Windex before. Yeah, alright, in the meantime, thanks for watching, and all being well, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see what we got.